Hi, everybody. It's Kathy, dietitian from Highland Primary Care, and this is the second part of blood pressure and cholesterol essentials. So I did the first part, which was cholesterol essentials, and now I'm going to do the blood pressure piece. They do work really well together because in the cholesterol, we talked a lot about the healthier fats that we should incorporate and things we should have less often, which really does impact the blood pressure as well. So if you haven't watched that, you might want to give that one a watch too. And then we'll talk more about sodium in this presentation today and a little bit on other factors that might impact. So what is blood pressure? It's the force exerted on the arteries when the heart contracts and relaxes. And if you did watch the first video, I always think about a garden hose and then how if we squeeze that garden hose or if we constrict it, the pressure goes up. And that's what's happening in our arteries. So sometimes the physiology of our body can contract those blood vessels, or sometimes we'll get plaques building up on the inside from the foods we're eating. And if we have too much of that LDL cholesterol, that can build up on the inside of the arteries and then just make the space inside the artery or the hose smaller, which increases the blood pressure. When the blood pressure is high, it's called hypertension. So hypertension is just a fancy word for high blood pressure. So if you hear that, that's what it means. So there are two numbers for your blood pressure reading. I'm sure you've had one before and recognize these. So the systolic pressure is that higher number, and that's the number, the measurement when the heart contracts. And then the bottom number, the diastolic, is the pressure when the heart is relaxing and filling back up with blood again. So this 120/80, this is like the textbook number on what a blood pressure should be. There is a range of normal. So we're not 120/80 isn't the only normal blood pressure, but we know when it's much higher than this, then it's worrisome. Symptoms of high blood pressure. So we can list off all these symptoms, like the headaches, the tremors, difficulty hearing, sweating, palpitations, weakness, shortness of breath, chest pain, ankle swelling. But for the most part, people can have very high blood pressures and have no awareness of it whatsoever. And I've seen that lots of times. So it's good to have blood pressure checked regularly and just go in, and that's why we do it, have it done often when you come in just for regular health exams and things like that. It's a really good screening, easy to do. Oh, sorry. So the one thing that's an addition, so we have all that stuff that we talked about with choosing healthy fats and getting fruits and vegetables and fiber in our diet. That all applies here as well, because we want to keep those arteries clean and healthy and nice and wide. But also with the addition of salt when it comes to blood pressure. So when we take in too much salt, that brings in more water. More water running through that garden hose increases pressure. So yeah, increase blood pressure and cause swelling. So that's why we want to watch the salt. So we tell people between 1,500 and 2,300 milligrams from food, cooking, and at the table. It's probably best to pull the salt shaker off the table and not use it so much in cooking. But honestly, as we'll find out a little later here, that the biggest portion of our salt comes from processed foods. And I know that people really kind of balk, or right here at this slide, balk a bit about giving up the salt, but I do know that very often when we pull it away, at first things don't taste quite the same and it doesn't taste as good, but over time that our taste buds kind of adjust and you get used to it. So give it a chance. It's good for your health. So yeah, and I just mentioned this one, about 75% of the salt we take in comes from those packaged processed foods, especially things like soup and crackers. So things in boxes and packages. 12% from cooking or at the table, and 12% is naturally occurring in food. So you can't guess because you're not here with me, but if we're looking at a crispy chicken salad, I'll just give you a moment to think about it. What do you think's in there for sodium? How many milligrams of sodium? And then a hamburger fries at your typical diner. What do you think's in there? And so that crispy chicken dinner, I think sometimes people are under the misconception if it's a salad, it's got to be healthier, but that salad contains breaded chicken and cheese and some dressing that adds up to 1,900 milligrams of salt. So That could be our whole daily dose of salt right there. And then the hamburger and fries is 3,000 milligrams, so well above our daily recommended intake. So it really does, the foods when we're eating out really does add up quite quickly. Just for examples. So more guessing here. Breakfast egg sandwich, chicken Caesar salad, 12-inch pepperoni pizza, deluxe cheeseburger and medium fries, fried chicken dinner. Have some thinking to yourself about what they might be for sodium. So that breakfast egg sandwich, 840 milligrams of sodium, quite a bit. A chicken Caesar salad, 570 milligrams of sodium. The 12-inch, if you eat the whole thing pepperoni pizza, it's almost 6,000 milligrams of sodium, depending, of course, where you buy it from and what kind of cheese they're using and sauce. But just know that that's a heavy hitter in the sodium world. The deluxe cheeseburger and fries, this one's 1910, and we saw the other one was higher. So it kind of depends where you're having it from, what the meat is seasoned with, what the fries are seasoned with. These things make a difference for sure. And a fried chicken dinner is almost 2,300 milligrams of sodium. So again, daily dose of sodium right there. So tips, I already mentioned taking the shaker off the table, eat at home more often and eat out less often. Use more fresh and dried herbs and spices and no salt added seasonings. That can be helpful. And we can use a lot of spices and seasonings. I kind of realize in our culture how we under season things a lot. So we can season them up with lots of zesty spices, and that will help give us the flavor we're looking for. Choose lower sodium or no added salt packaged foods. Take a look on the label. We'll talk about how to do that in just a second. And the nutrition facts table, I'll come back to it too, but we want to look for less than 5% of sodium on there. So this one's a good one just to take a snapshot of if you have your iPhone handy or your phone handy, because I do think we don't season our food enough typically in Canada, and we're missing some of that flavor, and then we use salt to kind of get it. So hot, like cayenne pepper chilies, if you want that hot flavor, ginger, the dry mustard, red pepper flakes, or wasabi if you really want hot. Sour things like lemon, lime vinegar, balsamic, rice, white wine, rice vinegar, white wine vinegar. Pepper, use all the different kinds of pepper, black, brown, pink, white, or peppercorns, fresh peppercorns ground. Sweet, we could use cranberry sauce, fresh fruit, fruit juice, honey, or molasses. Citrus, the lemon, the lemongrass, the lime. Tomato, fresh with low sodium, because they do have canned tomatoes with quite a bit of sodium in it, so we want to kind of avoid that. And then things like anise and coriander and cumin and curry and dill and dry mustard and garlic. Go crazy with garlic as long as it doesn't bother you. Onion and paprika. So just a little of an example of how we can, little changes can make a big difference. So if we take a half a tin of soup for our lunch with a processed meat kind of sandwich, and this one even has some lettuce and tomatoes on it. It looks like it has some mayonnaise too, 2,600 milligrams of sodium right in that meal. So if we do a little switcherooing and do a homemade soup, and same sandwich, you can see you cut that down by quite a bit there, from 26 to 1,400 with a homemade soup. And then a homemade soup, and changing out that processed meats, and we're still on whole wheat bread, but it looks like maybe tuna salad, something like that, with some veggies on there. And it's a huge difference. It's 400 milligrams of sodium, so big difference there. So the DASH and Mediterranean diet, so this takes a lot of the pieces from the cholesterol video. So all that pieces about eating more fruits and vegetables, and even having some meatless meals and incorporating beans and lentils, and the pieces about choosing healthy fats. And combines it with a low salt. So both, well, especially the DASH diet focuses on low salt. The Mediterranean, not so much, but the foods that you're choosing, if they're whole or and less processed, they'll probably have less salt. So both the DASH and the Mediterranean diet are really well proven to help reduce blood pressure. Before I go any farther, I'm going to take a step back and say, with any sort of diet, diet, quote unquote diet, just think about it as just that you might want to take pieces of it. What one piece of the Mediterranean diet do you really like to incorporate into your lifestyle? I find people do best when they make small changes, instead of saying, well, I eat this way, but now I got to totally change it. Like tomorrow, let's go vegetarian. It's not really likely to last. I think if you do want to incorporate a meatless meal, maybe have a meatless Monday or something like that, where you do, or tofu Tuesday, where you just try something new, and see if you like it and play around with it. And then it doesn't have to be so hard, and you're more likely to stick with things that you like. So yeah, so both the DASH and Mediterranean diet are very similar, and they have been shown to help lower blood pressure, and they protect the heart and the blood vessels, which is what we want. The emphasis is on, like I said, fruits and vegetables, whole grain breads, cereals, and just whole grains in general, using different kinds of grains like millet, quinoa, that kind of thing. Lower fat dairy, focusing on things like dried beans, peas, and lentils, and then the nuts and the seeds. And especially for the DASH diet, has a sodium recommendation as well. But like I said, Mediterranean does end up being lower sodium because we focus on wholer, less processed foods, and we just wind up naturally with a lower salt diet. So nutrition facts table, very important stuff. And what we want to look at on our nutrition facts table is just the sodium. So the first thing you always want to look at is the serving size, because that can be very deceiving. And then in this, and there may be other things you want to look at on the label here. And the labels in Canada are fairly standard on what they're going to have there. They're going to have the calories, they're going to have the fat. So just talking about the cholesterol class, so that's where we're finding the saturated fat. And if you'll recall, we want to keep that under 2 grams per serving. Remember, from that class 2, we're not so concerned about the dietary cholesterol. We're concerned about the saturated fat, because our bodies take that and turn it into cholesterol. And then we also want to look at this trans fats here, and we would like that number to be 0, because we know those trans fats are not so good for us. You might also want to take a look at something like fiber, and the more the better. But for sodium, the less the better. And we would like this number, so we can use this percentage daily value to tell us if there's a lot of something or if there's a little of something. So 5% or less is a little of something. So for things like sodium, we want a little of something. And 15% or more is a lot of something. So for something like calcium or fiber, depending on the product, that might be what we want. So yeah, oh, I just skipped ahead a little bit, but there you go. Serving size is up here compared to the amount that you'll actually eat. So if the serving size is 2 teaspoons, or maybe it's 4 crackers, but you always eat 20, remember you've got to times that by 5 now. And then the daily value, I skipped ahead a little bit and explained that, but 5% is a little, 15% or more is a lot. I really skipped ahead. So this slide is just explaining what we just talked about. And there you go. Choose foods that have more than 2 grams of fiber. Choose foods with less than 2 grams of saturated fat and 0 grams of trans fats. And there we are with the sodium. So we can see this choice, 320 milligrams in this size serving, is 13%. So this is a high sodium choice. We would like to see it under 5%. And I find the facts table work best when you're comparing 2 products. It's often hard if you're just taking one thing off the shelf, it might be really hard to tell. But the daily facts panel does help, because you can see 5% or less, or is it 15% or more? Is that a lot? Is that too much? But I do find it's easier to kind of compare like 2 yogurts or 2 soups or 2 sets of crackers, and then make your decision that way. So I'm going to repeat this from the cholesterol presentation. When it comes to smoking, just be a quitter. The Alberta Quits website is fantastic, and the number is there for you, 1-866-979-3553. All kinds of resources on that Alberta Quits. You can sign up for regular emails, and they'll send you lots of information and inspirational stuff that'll keep you on track if smoking cessation is your goal, cessation. And HealthLink also has resources, but of course, we have the resources right in your medical home. So as long as you doctor from Airdrie out to Didsbury, you are in the Highland Primary Care Network, and your doctor's office has a nurse and a social worker attached. So you could ask at the front desk if you haven't already met those amazing people in the doctor's office. You can ask that at the front desk if you can book in with them, and they can help you a little bit with quitting smoking resources. Okay, and I am going to repeat the activity piece because I think it's so, so important. Activity, like we talked about in the cholesterol video, it increases your HDL and lowers your risk of heart disease or stroke. Yeah, and activity is just like a small stress to the body and teaches our body how to deal with stress. So it makes us feel great, it improves our self-esteem, and do things that you love. Because if you're loving it and you're doing it just for the sake of doing it, you're going to keep doing it. And the health benefits are just an added bonus. Yeah, help with stress, boredom, and tension. It keeps all those things in check, right? When we're doing things we love. And definitely, I think something that's always overlooked is the importance of keeping our lean muscle mass, especially as we get more trips around the sun. We want to keep our muscle because if we have more muscle, then our metabolisms burn a little higher. We burn more calories just sitting, and that's what we want. Yeah, and sometimes we're just eating because we're bored or something like that. So sometimes activity can really help with boredom, and it can just keep those non hunger triggers for eating in queue. So when we eat when we're really not hungry because we're bored or stressed or tired, activity can be a piece of that to help with all those things. Yeah, find an activity you love and just stick with it. Fit activities into your everyday. I love the technique the kinesiologist gives of using 60 and, well, hers is 5, but maybe we even just start with 60 and 1. So for every 60 minutes I'm sitting, which I sit a lot for my work, I need to get up for a minute and just move around. Maybe it's to go to the printer or just get up and shake my legs out or do a little bit of a stretch, but moving for a minute. And maybe we slowly work up to 5 minutes. So break your activity into smaller chunks. It definitely doesn't have to be all at one time. We're aiming for that goal of 30 minutes, but it can be in really small chunks. So you might do, 5 or 10 minutes in the morning, and then you can do 5 minutes at lunch and 5 minutes after supper. I know that's only adding up to 20 minutes right now, but we're working up there, right? We're working up to the 30 minutes. We don't have to get there today or tomorrow. It's more important that you're kind of committed to it in the long run, and it's not making your life too out of control or feeling hectic or just feeling like something you can't keep up with in the long run. Yeah, start with one small thing. So if you're not doing any activity right now and you make a commitment to yourself to say, on Mondays after dinner, I'm going to walk for 5 minutes, I think that's fantastic. If you can stick with that, and every Monday now for the rest of your life after dinner, you walk for 5 minutes, rain, shine, cold, you get out there. That's actually going to do a lot more benefit than trying to do a 1 month fitness challenge where you're really trying, hating ourselves into change. This is kind of a way of nurturing ourselves into change. And the likelihood is that 5 minutes is going to become so much habit in your life that you're going to add on a little more to it, or you're going to try another day. So that's just a really good way to approach it. Yeah, and I mentioned all these things like take the stairs, park a little farther away. Maybe we lift soup cans, or maybe we think about just how much sedentary time do we actually have, and can we reduce that a little bit? So either using that 60 and 1, or if we're watching TV, maybe we on the commercials, maybe we do a little walk around or do something to move ourselves in place, or even if you don't have commercial on TV, maybe you pause it in the middle and just do a little walkabout. I think every little bit counts when it comes to activity. It is, I mean, there are certain levels that we know we get the best benefit out of it, but it's definitely dose responsive. So as we get more benefits from it. But any little bit gives us some benefit for sure. So the guidelines, I sort of alluded to this already, that we're trying to aim for 30 minutes a day most days, adding up to 150 minutes a week. So it's not like we have to hit the gym for an hour and a half every day. It's 30 minutes a day. And like I said, if we break it into 10, 10, 10, 10 before breakfast, 10 at lunch, 10 after supper, it could be really manageable chunks. And that could start with 5, 5, 5. So just getting started, I think, is really important. Also good to add some things that strengthen our muscles and our bones. So trying to do something that's a weight bearing activity 2 days a week. And like we said, more physical activity, greater benefit. So it is dose responsive. And I'm just going to transfer now to talk a little bit about goals, because I do find people will information gather a lot and they just kind of keep spinning their wheels like, oh yeah, I want to do that. I want to do that. And then they get more information and more information. We kind of get stuck in that rut, and we have the best intentions, but we just don't get moving on anything. And one thing that we found, one thing that all of us health coaches, professionals have found, is that if we get people to write things down in their own words, a goal that's manageable, that they're so much more likely to follow through with it. So I just wanted to talk quickly about SMART goals before I let you go here. So SMART is just an acronym to make, instead of just making your goal really a pie in the sky goal, like I need to eat more fruits and vegetables, or I need to do more activity. We want to hone in and get really specific with it. So SMART is an acronym that stands for specific, measurable, achievable. This slide says rewarding, but I always say realistic and timely. So it needs to have a time frame attached to it. So the example on the slide here is I will eat breakfast, including 3 food groups. So very specific, 3 days this week. So note, it doesn't have to be every day. Maybe you plan for the days where you're working from home and it's going to be a little easier for you. I love it when people make a goal and say, well, that's not very hard. Yes, that's a good goal for you, because it's not going to shift your life around. It's not going to make you crazy. If a hurdle comes up, you're basically going to jump over it and find the other side of it. So, but we do want to start to think about what are the things that need to be in place, so that we can follow through with our goal, and what might come up. Like, what if we sleep through our alarm? What is our plan for breakfast then? Do we have something in the car? So kind of just thinking about troubleshooting, because things come up. That's life. It's never just going to run perfectly smooth. I just don't think that happens in the real world. And so we want to kind of, from the outset, just think, what do I need to make this goal? And maybe we need to even break it into smaller steps if the goal is too big. I find that 98% of the time when people don't follow through with the goal, they made it too big. So make it smaller. Don't change much. And the other piece is looking at, if things go sideways, if I sleep in, if there's an early morning meeting, what is my plan? Maybe I have a protein shake in the fridge or something like that. So just, you have to think it out. I always find it's great with activity or with any sort of health change if we have an accountability partner. Like if walking's your goal and you have somebody you're going to meet Monday after dinner, you are so much more likely to follow through, because 1, you have a time, and 2, you have somebody to walk with, which is just going to make it so much more fun. So if you have somebody, like, and it can be somebody in your household, it can be your partner or kid or, a parent or something like that. If you have somebody who's going to be in partnership with you, the likelihood that the 2 of you are feeling very unmotivated on the same day it's less likely. It's not going to never happen, but usually one of you will talk the other into doing it. So it's good positive peer pressure. So the one thing that I didn't mention about SMART goals, like I said, it needs to be specific. It needs to be something you can measure. I'm having breakfast with 3 food groups 3 days a week. I can measure that. Achievable, it doesn't seem too hard. I'm already doing it on 2 days a week. So 3 days is pretty manageable. 1 more day, I can do that. You gotta know what's in it for you. What's in it for me? Always think about that. Like, I know health is an investment, and sometimes it's a little hard to see the connections. But we do know it's like putting $1 away a day, and at the end of the year we would have $365. Like, it starts to add up over time, but it doesn't seem like a lot on that given day. We don't always feel the direct benefit. I wish I had a crystal ball that I could show people This is where you're going to be if you don't do this, and this is where you're going to be if you do. But I can say we do have enough research to say that if you even do 5 more minutes of activity on a regular basis, or if you even eat 1 more serving of fruits and vegetables every day on a regular basis, that is going to make you healthier. I have no doubt in my mind about that. And so the last thing is time frame. And this one's really, really important because I think it's human nature to slide back into our old habits. So we want to make sure that we keep our habit up, and the fully acknowledging that the path to change is never smooth. It kind of goes up and down and around and back. But we want to keep the forward progress with things. So that having a time frame. So maybe you have 3 weeks or 4 weeks that you just assess things and see where they're at. So I will eat breakfast 3 days a week with 3 food groups, starting on Monday. And then Monday, 3 weeks from now, I'm going to assess it and see how it's going. And you might set an alarm on your phone every Monday just to see, check in, how's it going? Is there anything I need to troubleshoot, or is there anything that would help me achieve my goal? So recapping, I'm going to recap the 2 videos all in one. So set the stage. If you smoke, cut back or quit, if that's in your possibility to do so. Even cutting back makes a huge, huge difference. And like we said in the first video, smoking is one of the best things we can do for our heart, for sure. Looking for healthy, positive ways to cope with stress. And again, if that's an issue for you, we do have a whole video that's just on stressing well and how to cope a little better with the stressors in our lives. And there's your nutrition messages, the 4 F's there: fats, fibers, fruits, and veggies, and getting our fluids in. So just focusing on the foods that are good for us, that nourish our body and our heart. And get moving, as we talked about a lot in both videos. Fuel and hydrate the body. So just a rule of thumb, try to eat breakfast within 2 hours of waking. Trying to eat 3 meals a day, at least 3 meals a day, not going more than 4, and definitely not more than 6 without eating. Drink water and milk. You're sweet enough. Choose water and milk instead of other beverages at your meals, and trying to eat more or emphasize those fruits and veggies than other foods at your meals. Looking for higher fiber choices. It wouldn't be a video with Kathy if I didn't mention fiber somewhere. So yeah, looking for those higher fiber choices, which we talked about a lot in the first video. Find movement activity that you like to do just for its own sake, and then keep doing it. Yeah. And like we said, small steps work better than giant leaps. So pick one small thing. You don't have to change much, but change one thing. Yeah. So if you have any questions and you want to ask, something that's individual to you, then the best thing to do is think about that medical home. So you can make an appointment with your nurse or your social worker in your medical home, and they can kind of help you tweak out some little bits and pieces. We do have our website where you can go for lots of resources, and the handouts for this class are on our website. So www.hpcn.ca. And then under the tab Programs and Services, there's the Health Improvement Program, or the HIP program. And then if you scroll down on that page, there's a document that says handouts for HIP classes. And if you click on that and open it up, there is the class Blood Pressure and Cholesterol Essentials, and all the handouts that go along with these 2 classes will be there for you. Note that you came to our YouTube channel, so we do have a lot of other videos on there that you can take a look at, and we do have a Facebook page where we do advertise anything new that's coming up or anything we think that might interest you. And our Facebook is Highland Primary Care Network, all typed out. So that's where you can find us. And I hope that you got something out of this short video. And if you haven't watched the cholesterol one, I would go back and catch that one too. And because they do really work better together. And yeah, take a look at our other videos on our YouTube channel. And I hope I see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.